It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday. Legitimate enthusiasm from me this Feedback Friday. I am super giddy for multiple reasons. The first is because I am finally done the assemble edit on Boss Fight Episode 5. Holy shit. Holy shit. Like, what's an assemble edit doesn't matter. Basically, all that needs to be put on now is what we call the top and tail. It's the finessing of the show instead of the actual guts of the show. There is a fucking show. Holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. Like, it's not the light at the end of the tunnel anymore. I am actually out of the tunnel. And yes, if you're playing Days Gone, that just means the zombies come at you from all sides. But holy shit, I'm out of the goddamn tunnel. This has been a slog. Are there things that I wish I could go back and improve? Yes, but everybody knows the budget on this show. They see the Kickstarter for, you know, the money I had to work with. The values are there. It will be out soon. Oh my God, thank fucking God. So I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy about the Wellness Wednesday comments this week. More on that in a bit. But the thing that just put me over the moon friggin' giddy. And the Ghost of Tsushima, like, extra stuff is coming out soon. And Alan Wake. But He-Man 2020 Act 2 has me just... I don't know if you guys watched The Good Fight or you watched The Good Wife before it was The Good Fight, but Christine Baranski's character has this particular shit's gone sideways laugh where she just kind of goes... It's like, oh, fuck me laugh. That's where I'm at with Netflix and He-Man. However, a particular comment, I think, managed to explain to me something has been lost in translation. And I kind of went, oh, that wasn't obvious? Now, you guys got to understand, I've been in the entertainment industry. Depending on how you measure it, I started doing things on camera when I was about 8 or 9. I was a competitive dancer at 12. I started working in television when I was 19. 2/3 of my life have been in this industry, right? Anybody who's been in it that long, like assemble, edit, top and tail, what do these things mean? There are, I've been saying all along, there's different terminologies, there's different ground truths. But I want to start with this comment. I will talk about the new, totally different He-Man show with Orko at the end of this video, but I want to get to the Wellness Wednesday comments because... I talk about behind the scenes previews, and yes, patrons get a boss fight preview and all that stuff. But the most important thing that Patreon is doing right now is it's keeping Wellness Wednesday running, because I do think that's important, but it is strictly the financial backing of patrons that makes doing those videos viable. So if you like Wellness Wednesday, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Now, the Wellness Wednesday video was about how to handle criticism. And I will say that I expected to take a lot more shit about Tuesday's video when I was like, unwanted advances? Really? Really? We need a content warning for that now? Really? I thought I'd take a lot more shit for that. But this is why I just tell you guys what I think. Because I'm not a mind reader. I can't predict how people are going to respond. All I can do is give you my honest opinion on things. But yeah, that was, I think it really needed to be said, and I think it needed to be said by someone who can't just get dismissed as, some sexist man pig. Pretty blunt, but that's it. Um, you know, let's move on to the other stuff. Wellness Wednesday was about um, giving constructive criticism. And one commenter did suggest a follow up, and thank you, um, for suggesting that, when is criticism constructive and when is it overboard. That's a good suggestion because it's not quite the same thing. How to know when criticism is warranted, and how to know when criticism has gone too far. That was a suggestion, and heard it. Yes, I'm on that because that's good. It's a different topic, but the comment I want to focus on ties back into the He-Man thing, but in the constructive criticism video. And I read this comment about 4 times, and I'm like, but what? That wasn't obvious? And a light bulb went on, and it's like, really? Okay. But let me read it, and I'll tell you what the light bulb was. Okay. So I don't agree that in your example of plans changing after somebody makes a statement, someone calling them a liar is putting them between a rock and a hard place. They are definitely being put there, but it's the business doing it, because at that point, the individual is innocent, but the business very much lied. Now, the person should not be called a liar anyway, but the statement should be called a lie. I love that nuance. Because by omitting to make it known that a change of plans has occurred, the business is lying. And at that point, by making an employee the face of that lie, preventing them to rectify it, it is the business who is putting that person in a difficult spot, not the people who have ultimately been lied to. There's definitely a problem of consumers misidentifying who is responsible for the business lying to them, and it must be addressed. But I believe moving the target from the face of the statement to the angered customers is the wrong direction. Move it to the business instead. Move it to the decision makers who decided to make their company a liar. And that's exactly what I was trying to say. I never thought for a second that anybody wouldn't factor in that major media companies lie through their fucking teeth. Like, I thought that was such a given that it didn't need to be said. Clearly, based on this comment, I was wrong. And that's like, really? Like, really? I mean, really? Okay. All right. Like I said, I've been in this business a really long time. I thought everybody knew that these media companies, even the best of them, are shitty. And Netflix is pretty notorious for being on the more exploitative end of things. There's a reason so many people go back to Disney. And I mean, Disney's been fucking up hard lately with like not paying people for on demand, like streaming revenues, shit like that. But I'm not going to get into all the reasons that Netflix is just, but Netflix is shady. It just is. They are an opaque, unaccountable company that disrupted the entire media landscape, and perhaps not for the better. Like I said, I don't have time to get into all the reasons why they are particularly terrible to Canadian creators. They won't deal with Canadian content creators. They will deal with Canadian literary agents because they want to take someone's book and just do whatever the fuck they want with it, right? They don't actually, they want to operate in Canada and they want Canada's money, but they don't actually want to, share the wealth in Canada, to the point that Netflix Canada did a shout out to Ed the Sock for Stranger Things promotion. But will they talk about an Ed the Sock project? No. Netflix is shitty, okay? I thought everyone knew that. I thought everybody knew that media companies, to greater or lesser degrees, are necessary evils, which is precisely why I'm advocating don't attack the creator for statements, get mad at Netflix, get mad at Warner Brothers, get mad at Marvel, get mad at Disney because they fucking own everything. Don't go after individual creators unless you have unequivocal, unshakable evidence of bad behavior. Because it is amazing the shit you get forced into. Okay? And a lot of it is so fucking petty. When I was doing a booth babe gig, for lack of a better term, we didn't call it that because it's an all ages property, but I was doing a what is called themed character at a booth. I was a big fan of the original movie. Okay, I'm not saying the name because I really liked working for the company and overall it was a good experience. No. You know what? Fuck it. They can handle it. They're good. When I was Quora on the Tron Legacy and Tron, I forget the name of the game stuff, they actually told me to stop quoting the original Tron movie. Like, I was saying things like I fight for the user and end of line and all that stuff, and they're saying, don't say that. That's not part of our marketing. And I was like, okay, sure. Okay, I'll do it. Weird. Didn't ask why, but like I said, they were otherwise really great. Once I got through the background check, that was a rubber glove. Yeah, all those interviews with porn stars, that was a tense conversation, but they took me. In fairness, like I said, it was an overall good experience. Another funny story was I edited an anthology called Wrestling with Gods. It was science fiction and fantasy with religious themes. And we chose the title Wrestling with Gods because every major religion has like a wrestling metaphor somewhere. Don't know why religion's big on kafabe, right? But one thing you tend not to get as an editor or an author is cover approval. You have to give up too much to get cover approval. It doesn't make it worthwhile. So you don't get cover approval. And we got the cover, which was this big naked blue giant hugging the world. And I was like, all right, really evocative image. Like, it makes a bold statement. Which continent got the groin area? And it was like this instant, don't you ever say that when you're marketing the book. They were mad. Like, I thought it was funny. And I was like, people are gonna make the comment. It's better if we make it. Because, I mean, this is an anthology where the first story is a story called Mecha Jesus, which is an android that is basically a walking Shinto shrine in Japan who thinks he's Jesus. And there's a story about the god Ra coming down to earth in modern times and becoming a big Coronation Street fan. Like, it's a really irreverent anthology. There's a story about Ganesh becoming a Bollywood star and like so on and so forth, right? Irreverent, funny joke, wasn't allowed to make it. Do I know why? No, they don't tell you these things. They just say, do not say that. And when they say, do not say that, you do. Because while you are under your terms of employment, if you say those things, not only do you get fired and sued, it goes around that you are a loose cannon and no one will work with you. The entire industry is driven by the idea that whoever you're working for owns your ass for that time. Be very, very, very careful what the terms of the NDAs you sign are. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. You want the gig, you have to sign the gag order. You have to play by their rules. But this is true of every media company, every property, to some lesser or greater degree. Which is why I don't understand why anyone blames a voice actor or, the showrunner or anything like that. They do their best. Like, okay, if it comes out like the showrunner on MacGyver and stuff like that was like harassing actors, that's a different thing, right? Like, that's independently shitty behavior. Like the new host of Jeopardy, who is the executive producer on Jeopardy, he is a very checkered past, to put it lightly. That's fair to target at him. But to single out one personality for creative decisions that are basically approved or disapproved above their pay grade, they can't self-approve, right? That's why people go off and make creator-owned, like crowd-funded projects on one-fifth the budget they'd make from Hollywood, right? That's why people take risks making DC films, even with like the stuff that went on behind the scenes there, because everything is so tightly controlled at Marvel, right? Like, there are realities to this business that if you want to be heard, if you want to be listened to, if you want a fair hearing, which I keep hearing people want, they want creators to care about their opinions. Try to understand they can care. They can't do fuck all about it. Sometimes in the cases of like the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, it was a very specific criticism that there was already an internal fight about, and the creators could go, see, I told you. And they get their way based on, public opinion. But in that case, it was, oh my God, what is this monstrosity? They didn't single out anybody for blame. It's like, this is fucking horrible. It is way more effective when you just deal with what's on the screen and not get into personal attacks against creators, because internally, everybody knows who made that call, but you actually get more leverage over that person if they can save face. And if they, it was no one's fault, let's move on. Let's move on is the big sleazeball executive term for don't you dare call me on my shit. You got your way this time, maggot. Right? I said maggot. And this brings me to He-Man 2021 Act 2. And, again, that was a really good comment. And it's, I think everybody is feeling gaslit, and that's a comment that came up a lot. I do push back on the idea that inside baseball language isn't fair to point out, because, I did it off the top of this video. It's just the words. When you make money using a particular set of terms, those terms become immediate to you, right? You code switching is a very, very real thing. One of the big, just as an example, one of the big tells about who the Tropes versus Women series was for was that they used MPAA, so movie, like PG rated terminology, not T for teen or, Peggy 12 or internal gamer terms. These things tell you who the communication is for. Now, the entertainment industry is so up its own butt that you're not taken seriously unless you speak the language, which is why a lot of, marginalized peoples, women, people of color, stuff like that, it's a very, please don't take offense by this, but it is a very particular kind of West Coast male masculinized speech, because not every man speaks that way. The gay straight thing isn't as important, but it is a very masculinized speech. In order to get anywhere, you have to talk a certain way, and that language is a highly performative, puffery form of a particular kind of masculinity. And the majority of the planet doesn't speak that way. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it is. This is my intent for people to understand, not saying something's right or wrong. And that brings me to the latest He-Man trailer that dropped yesterday. And again, you see, I don't want my giddiness to be mistaken for me being happy about that show. I am a nerd. But of course, Christine Baranski laughed from Good Fight. Fuck it. The reason I'm calling it He-Man 2021 Act 2, because this is now 3-act structure, right? Everybody gets mad at Kevin Smith. Netflix then drops a far more race swapped, far more gender swapped Ram Ma'am. Like, that's wham bam, thank you ma'am, contracted. Ram Ma'am. It's in the official credits. Ram Ma'am. Okay. Everybody's young. It's a great voice actor cast. Stoked about some of the names on it. Great Elias Evelyn. Bam. But so everybody is now beaten, right? That is what I have seen. Netflix has just whooped fandom's ass on this. Nobody has the wherewithal to protest this. And the media is right on board with it, basically going, it's for kids, it's for kids. Why shouldn't kids have this? Like, they're really carrying the water for this. And why should kids not have a show that is something they can relate to? Nobody's saying that. Of course they should have shows that they can relate to. But I'm calling this show He-Man Beyond, because it's Batman beyonding He-Man. And unless you think it's an insult, I have a Batman Beyond statue. Fuck, you can't see it, but it's back there. Oh, there it is, up there behind Gollum. I've got the Batman Beyond statue. I thought Batman Beyond was great for what it was. It was not Batman. It was Batman Beyond, right? There must be some licensing reason why they just keep recycling pre-existing characters. Some wording in whatever licensing deal Netflix signed with Mattel means they can only use pre-existing characters. They can't create new ones. Because that's not Tila, and Orko's not a robot, and so on and so forth, right? Like, these are just facts, okay? When you take He-Man from a Conan the Barbarian with more color and cuddliness and transpose it into a science fiction setting, you are changing a fundamental element of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I argue it is no longer He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It is He-Man Beyond, which is fine. But don't give me a block of tofu and tell me it's steak. My stomach will know a half hour later. That's a very personal thing to me. I can't eat meat because my appendix blew up. Um, it's their IP. They can do what they want. I don't have to like it. But Netflix played this like the fiddler's violin on Stargirl, right? It's an evil genius masterstroke. Because now they've teed it up so that when the back half of the Kevin Smith saga drops and, He-Man comes back and punches Skeletor a few times, everybody's gonna cheer because it's gonna be eventually a return to form. This was predictable from where I was at. It's cynical. It's craven. Yes, you are right about all of it. It is the reality of Hollywood right now. Because, like it or not, stuff doesn't get greenlit in Hollywood anymore, except at Disney, unless it is part of a pre-existing IP. Everyone knows this. It's got to be a video game or a comic book or something. So, of course, why? Because a writer or an artist draws a comic book, makes a little bit of money, and then it gets optioned for 7 years, and they make a bit more money. But by the time it's made into anything, they're like, okay, this comic sold this much. We can prove there's interest in this, instead of, when George Lucas made Star Wars, it's because he couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon. Mortal Kombat became Mortal Kombat because the Universal Soldier game they were making fell through, right? We've gone from this era of necessity is the mother of invention to make a show about a bunch of young hot things with computers, as long as you call it MacGyver. And I mean, let's face it, I like that show, but it became less and less about the MacGyvering. I think we all understand what I'm saying here. I know that a lot of people who got really mad at a lot of the stuff lately legitimately care about this stuff. I will go back to the reality, not blame, because, like I said, I completely agree with what that commenter said, that ultimately the moral responsibility for the lie is on the business, not the consumer. But consumers empower creators by putting blame in the proper place, right? Like, if a business knows they can mislead a Kevin Smith or whoever's in the barrel this week, right? Like, if they can say, yeah, this is what they're doing, and they go out and tell everybody this is what they're doing, and the next day they change it, and they know that creator is going to bear the brunt of it, not the company, why wouldn't they keep doing that? It works. They get a ton of what's called earned media, which is media speak for free publicity. The creator's the one that has all the stress and ulcers and years taken off his life, and everybody flinging shit at him. Win-win for a company like Netflix, right? There's a reason these companies continue to handle, the harassment of Laura Bailey on The Last of Us 2 and Kevin Smith and Kelly Marie Tran and so on and so forth. They're not handling this badly. They're handling it exactly the way they want to handle it, which is reminding everyone in this business that you are disposable. Unless you're James Gunn and happen to, your agent has the same trainer as a guy at DC. That's the way the industry works. So, If you don't like what's happening, and I think a lot of us don't, you have to fight smarter, not harder, because like this isn't working. One, like stuff. Liking stuff is super, super powerful. Look at Ghost of Tsushima. Like, look at Alan Wake. These are both properties that got their backs turned on, and it was sheerly by sheer just fan good vibes that and the devotion of the studio that those persisted. Tsushima especially, I was very impressed by the way that game took so much hate from people kind of standing for The Last of Us 2, and everybody just who loved the game were like, no, we like it. We're not going to play this game. This is awesome. Pet the fox, right? Bamboo test. I'm the ghost man. This game is the shit, right? It works. It works. It doesn't feel as immediately like rage, right? It isn't that immediate like catharsis, but it is much more effective. But it is very important, speaking as a creator who has had my share of fights, who has won some fights, lost a lot more of them. And a lot of the time I lost fights, not because I wasn't right. I just didn't have the support at the right place at the right time to back me up. And, you know, as somebody who wore a lot of the losses, traitor to my gender and all that stuff, slut, whore, this, that, and the next thing. I've been called everything. You don't go and air dirty laundry because everyone's been in that position, right? First and foremost, you value the colleagues you worked with who did have your back and, you know, they lost along with you, or, you know, you were in the trenches with them and you don't want to fuck them up. Especially if you get fired from a project for standing your ground and fighting the good fight, and they're still left in the trenches, right? Your priority is for them, not the one or two assholes in management that are making everyone miserable. Because what happens is, you know, another project comes up and then they call you, right? They remember working with you and they remember that you were a team player and you took your lumps and you didn't put the whole thing on blast because you knew there were, you know, 12 other people with mortgages and families who needed the remaining paychecks. And when you do this for a living, that is a reality. You love the work, yes. Again, I have walked. I'd probably be a lot wealthier right now if I had the ability to just eat this shit more. That is not me. I am honest. I have very firm lines. There are certain things like, all right, I'll eat that shit because it's a gray area. I'm not going to be associated with other things because they aren't. And as somebody who does try to fight the good fights, believe me when I say you hurt for creators who bear the brunt of network decisions or publisher decisions or so on and so forth. You hurt for people who are victims of harassment and nobody can say anything because there isn't a strong enough case against guys like Joss Whedon, Brett Ratner, Kevin Spacey, Bryan Singer, these really notorious guys who everybody knew about, but nobody wanted to say anything because they can trace the story to the victim and you didn't want to fuck them up, right? These are the realities of this business. Good product gets made in a very, very shitty industry. And I do think it is important to tell that side, even though I've taken a ton of crap for it. But if anybody thinks for a second that people who work in this industry don't think that like the money channels in this business are inherently evil, you don't have to worry about that, right? We all know it's evil. We all know this system is evil. It's evil and psychopathic and corrupt, and yes, all those things. The rumors are true. It's the only way to get anything made, other than again crowdfunding, which again is 1/5 the budget. Some things work that way, right? Some things work that way. And that's why I was particularly like, no, man, this isn't fair about Kevin Smith, because this is a guy who walked away from the big budget movies for a really long time to make smaller things. And I think that people earn a certain amount of grace that shouldn't be just immediately wiped away because they do a couple things that people don't like. And that is the part that we can do something about. We can't do anything about the evils of Hollywood. We have to control what we can control, right? And what we can control is placing the blame in the right place. So, I completely agree with the commenter. Like, yeah, move it to the business. Move it to the decision makers. That's how we can actually support the creatives that are right now losing the internal fights. They're trying, guys. We're trying. We're trying to make the content that you want. We don't have the support because the money people, the powers that be, the marketers, so on and so forth, have cast the core fan base as easy villains to get earned media, meaning free PR. And that's just the reality. So help us, please, because we want to make original stuff. We don't want to retread properties from the 70s and 80s anymore. Like, we really don't. We want new stuff, but new stuff gets tied up in the pipeline for 7 or 8 years, right? And, the upside of Netflix, despite all its evil, is Netflix will take a chance on something like a Sweet Tooth, right? Or a Warrior Nun. They will. So people have to go there. There's no other option. Hopefully this has been useful. Like I said, I appreciate the nuance. You know what's coming. Please keep Wellness Wednesday going. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.